Hello. Welcome back to Historia.
I'm Kylie.
I'm Jamie.
We are so excited to talk to y'all again. It's our favorite.
Yeah. I got quite the episode.
Oh.
This is our last one for the night. So, Sunday night, here we are.
Sunday night, the sun's going down.
I know. I'm loving this, like, it getting darker.
Oh, I know. It's
later
so
out.
nice.
I know. It kills me at 5 o'clock and it's like pitch black. I'm like, I don't know what to do with my life.
Yeah, I feel like I should be going to bed, but I'm like, I still have like 6 hours to stay awake.
Literally, it's tough. It's a tough life.
Daylight savings. Anyway, I'm excited to see what your topic's going to be.
Yes, I'm excited. So, you know how I'm really into the ancient world and just doing topics on it. I can't help myself. I get really excited.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about this one a lot. So I am diving into another episode on mythology.
Oh, cool. I love those episodes too.
So I've been really into the kick of Greek mythology since watching the new Percy Jackson TV series.
Okay.
It's really good. I liked it. I even got James into it.
Nice.
And he's upset because now we have to wait for season 2. And he's like, wait, there's not more? And I was like, no.
Not right
one
now.
Season. He's like, why would you make me watch this? And I'm like, because I wanted to watch it. And it's really good.
I love mythology. It's so fun.
So I've decided I wanted to do another Greek myth. So unlike the others we have talked about on this podcast, this week I am not going to be talking about a god or goddess.
Oh, plot twist.
But that of a monstrous creature with a tragic story. So today I am talking about Medusa.
Oh my god. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I love her. She's great. So before we get started, let's go over where I got my information. So I pulled information from mythology.net and from the Met Museum website. They had some really good stuff on her. She is very interesting, especially in ancient Greece culture. So let's get started. So many know of the Medusa as she is a monstrous creature in Greek mythology that is known for turning men or people into stone when they look into her eyes.
I love a powerful queen.
And let's not forget her tangled hair mess of snakes.
Yes, the best part.
Classic. But what many do not know about her is that she was not always like this in the myth. She was not born this way.
Really?
She was created. So there was depth to her. She had a character. She was character. She has a tragic story to go along with how she became the way that she is, like most do. And of course, we can blame the gods for that. So to start our story, Medusa was born from parents Phorcys and Ceto in most adaptations that we can, I think there was a couple others I saw her, like her parents were someone else, but this is like the common one, who were Greek primordial sea gods.
Oh.
But the crazy thing is that she was born on an island called Sarpedon, and her sisters were that of the Gorgons, Setheno and Uriel. God, that first one was tough. But so she was born to like these really, no one was like a monster at first. Like they all were doing their own.
One.
Yeah, they were their own thing. So she even shared a sibling with one of the most feared monsters in ancient Greek mythology, Echidna.
Oh.
Echidna, she is the mother of all monsters.
Ooh.
Super fearsome. Don't want to deal with her. It's terrifying. And they do cover Echidna in the Percy Jackson like TV show. It's pretty legit. Love her. So all of her siblings were they had some sort of gifts, but she was the only one who was mortal, which I don't know how that happened because her parents are gods. But she ended up being mortal. So she was just living her life on the island, doing her own thing. And she was living like everybody else, even though she had godly parents. But I think the one thing that came out of it, because she had godly parents, is that she was very beautiful. Like, oh my God, beautiful. And people were infatuated with her, and people were jealous of her because of it. So she was living a happy life with doing like her own thing. And I'm sure that if she didn't get into all this chaos, that she would probably have a husband, and Zeus would probably show up and do something about it later on, because she was so gorgeous, because that's him. She decided to not live a life as a normal, just like woman getting married, having kids and stuff, that she decided to devote her life to the priestess to be a priestess for Athena.
Oh.
Yeah. So the goddess of war and wisdom. So Athena is something else, let me tell you. So Medusa believed that Athena was if not the strongest and most powerful of the gods that lived. She believed wholeheartedly that Athena was the most powerful on Olympus. Like, she was like, there's no other person that I want to devote my life to for the gods other than her. So she wanted to devote her life to the goddess and decided that she would become a priestess. So a requirement to be a priestess for any god or goddess is that one must be a virgin for the entirety of their life and devote themselves to their work.
Oh.
You cannot do anything outside of it. Like, that was a big no-no. You can't have a family. You can't do anything else. Like, you can't have a relationship outside of being devoted strictly for that god or goddess.
Wow.
But she was devoted to Athena. She was like, yeah, I'm going to live my life through you, because I believe so much in what you do for Olympus that I want you to know it, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that you're happy with me.
Yeah.
So after becoming a priestess, it did not take long for the gods to take notice of a Medusa, because I'm sure they all knew, all the priestesses that were devoting their lives to the gods. Like, I'm sure they all kept eyes on them. And when Medusa came into the picture, they're like, whoa, she's pretty. And she's something else. So she was a beautiful mortal, and of course gods can't help themselves with beautiful mortals. One god in particular that caught the eye of her was none other than the sea god himself, Poseidon. Poseidon was deeply intrigued by Medusa's beauty and knew he wanted more from her. He was intrigued. He also knew that if he could tear a priestess of Athena away from the temple, that it would look poorly on Athena.
Oh.
They were huge rivals. Like, they hated each other. I mean,
sense.
There was a full-on war in deciding on what the city of Athens was going to be called.
Yeah.
Of course, Athena won.
Woo!
Yeah. So Poseidon would then approach Medusa. There are different variations on how Poseidon would approach Medusa and what led to Medusa's fallout. So one variation would be that Poseidon would seduce Medusa into developing feelings from him and eventually lead him to having sex with her. So that was like one variation, is that like he made her fall in love with him, even though she was just like, no, I like, as much as I love like Athena, she couldn't help her feelings. And then another variation is that Poseidon tried to gain the affection from Medusa, but she was determined to keep her oath to Athena and stay as her pure priestess. It would unfortunately end with Poseidon taking advantage of her, which led to her no longer being a virgin priestess, which is a big no-no. You don't do that. So any variation, it would end that Medusa would break her oath and end up pregnant with Poseidon's child. This pissed Medusa off. She was so mad, and she was devastated that she broke her oath to the goddess that she looked up to. She was like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Like, I need to do something about it, because I'm pretty sure deep down she knew, oh fuck, I'm so screwed.
Yeah.
So hoping that Athena would forgive her, Medusa would call to the goddess and beg for forgiveness and advice of how she could move on from what had happened and if she could still be like a priestess for her. Let's just say Athena is not a woman who gives back proper wisdom when she feels betrayed. Not only did her priestess break her oath, but with the man that has been her rival from the start. So if it was probably another god, she'd probably be like, oh my God, why? And probably not give such a harsh punishment. But because it was Poseidon, oh, she was so pissed about it. She's like, nah, you're done. So instead, Athena blamed Medusa for allowing Poseidon to take advantage of her because of her beauty and decided to punish her for it. In anger, Athena would have Medusa turn into an unimaginable, horrendous monster. This monster she would turn her into would punish those who even dared to look into the eyes of Medusa. So it wasn't only a punishment for her, but also for people who even dared to look at her, which is really intense.
That is intense.
So her beauty would be transformed for her to have bronze hands and wings. Some variations, mostly the archaic time, so like super back then, like when it first started, like her story started to be developed, she would be described as disfigured, would have like a disfigured face and have fangs.
Oh wow.
Along with like the crazy snake hair going on. In later variations, she still holds like her beautiful face. Like she's still like pretty. It's still like a very attractive woman. But she still had like the snake hair and like very intense eyes.
It's like to lure people in. Yeah. Still has that face.
Yeah. So that was like, you could see a change of like, oh my gosh, she's still beautiful. But like, that's how she lures men in and gets them. Yep. So it's changed. Her story has changed a lot, or like her physical appearance has changed a lot throughout the times. The most memorable of her of all would be the hair that was turned into venomous snakes. Now, not only did this curse be brought onto Medusa, but also her two Gorgon sisters, the one that I couldn't pronounce her name, and Uriel. Cestino. God, I hope I got that right. So one of the most common variations that they also turn into monsters is that how they turned into monsters is because they defended Medusa, and Athena decided that they also needed to pay the price. So on this island that they were on, now Sarpedon, there was not only one monster, but now 3 that were terrorizing this island.
3.
Yeah, so it was not great. So the 3 would all now live in Sarpedon together, and they would terrorize the island when any man like would step foot onto it. So Medusa, over time, her heart would begin to fill with hate and anger, especially that of men. Like she felt so betrayed, especially with what Poseidon did to her. Yeah. And I think at first she was probably just very sad, very scared, probably had no idea. But then realizing what the gods did to her probably just let that anger boil and just pretty much created her into this monster of herself, which is so sad to see. But I mean, that's how a villain is created. Something devastating happens and it changes them. I don't blame her. So as men would arrive to the island and step into the garden that Medusa was hiding in, they would find their way to which she would turn them into stone. So she, over time, she accepted this role, and it's what she needed. She was like, it is what it is. Like, these men are trying to come after me. I'm going to make them pay the price. And she very seldom would leave her island. She kept very close to herself. So it started to get around like all the different islands and all over Greece that like this creature was hanging out and turning men into stone. And of course, like that's terrifying. So the people are not going to take that nicely. And their egos are like, I can destroy her.
Right.
Like, let me go do it.
They're more powerful. And
let's just say her garden is very large because these men did not accomplish what they set out to. So as the years passed, she only grew stronger with hate and power. Many men would go to the island, determined that they would be the hero to destroy the serpent lady that turned men into stone. But like the others, they would be stuck on the island as stone statues in her garden forever. Yeah.
Why did they think they can do it?
I don't know, because they suck. This only made Medusa feel with more hate and disdain for men, and it looked like there was going to be nothing to stop her. She was like, I'm just going to keep doing this. Anybody who tries to look at me, like, I am going to kill them. And that was until Perseus got involved.
Oh.
So Perseus was given the task to slay Medusa by cutting off her head. Now, this was actually originally a ploy to get Perseus killed, but he had some serious pull. Like, I want to cover his story because there's a lot to him. I was going to do like half Medusa, half Perseus, but I was like, okay, there's way too much on Medusa that I'm just going to cover one episode on her.
As a different episode.
Pretty much, but I mean, he has quite the story to him. So this was not going to be an easy task to try and defeat Medusa. Like, she was very quick. She was very, like, kind of all over the place. Like, I mean, you just had to look at her, which if you're going to try and attack her, you're going to have to look at her. And she knew how to get you. So he had to think of like, okay, how can I get through this adventure or this journey without getting myself turned into stone? So he actually got help from the gods. So he would receive a mirrored shield from Athena, because Athena's like, I want to see this bitch dead. Winged sandals from Hermes, a sword from Hephaestus, and a helm of invisibility from Hades.
Wow, he's ready.
Literally, he's ready to go. So Perseus would reach the island and search for Medusa. While she slept, he would use the mirror to guide him to the sleeping Medusa without having the worry to look her in the eye, because the mirror would just look back onto her. So he was kind of using it to like guide himself to find her pretty much. Because he can't just like, if he makes one wrong move, she's just going to wake up, look at him, and he's done.
Yeah.
So there he would approach her, and then he would cut off her head, making a clean break out of the area that she slept. So he cut off her head while she was sleeping and took it and was like, see ya. So before he could leave, Medusa's two sisters would find the headless Medusa, and they broke out into a frenzy. They were,
oh shit,
dude, they were so pissed. They would look all over the island for Perseus, but would come up short due to the helm of invisibility and the winged sandals that Hades and Hermes gave Perseus, because then he could just escape the island with no issues. Yeah. So in the death of Medusa, her children would actually be born after he cut off her head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm guessing these are kids from Poseidon, maybe, because he got it, from what I read, that he got her pregnant, but I'm guessing that she never had the kids.
Okay.
But
they just lived in her until she died.
I guess. But from the removal of her head, the famed creature Pegasus, the white horse with wings, would be born. And then she also had a second child that would come from Medusa's neck after she died. His name would be Chrysor. He would go on to become the king of Iberia. Yeah, there's...
Damn.
I don't know. So you would think with her head being cut off that this would be the end of her story, but it's not, surprisingly. Perseus would continue to travel around her head in tow with him. So he was just hanging on to her head. And I found this actually really interesting. So it is said that when he was flying over Libya, blood drops would fall to the ground and a venomous snake would form. And this gives to why there are so many poisonous snakes in Libya.
Oh, okay.
I was like, that's an interesting just like origin story for why you have so many deadly snakes. All because of Medusa's head bleeding. Yeah. Now, he even used her head to turn the Titan Atlas into a mountain, defeat Cetus, and even save his own mother.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was using her head left and right. He was just sticking it out, and she was just like turning them into stone. It's crazy. So he was taking her all over the place, but eventually when his journey came to an end, he would go on to give the head to Athena.
Oh.
I was like, man, that sucks. This poor lady.
I know.
So there he would give the head to Athena, and she would put the head on her shield. And it was now called Aegis. So some good, actually, of Medusa's death would come, I guess, because of her blood. So the really interesting part of it is that the blood that came from her head had a very high importance between life and death, which is crazy. So the blood, if I don't remember which side, but one side that blood would come out of, you can use it to resurrect the dead or those like that are severely ill. Like you can make them healthy again. And then the other side was like a poison that would kill. So I think it looked at like the two sides of who she was.
Interesting.
Because one side, she's this snake-like woman who was turning men into stone, killing them. And then this other part of her, she was a priestess for Athena, showing that pure side of just...
Like she still had that side of her somewhere.
Exactly. And in her death with the head, with how you collected the blood, that's how it would do. Like, she was a symbol of life and death. Like her head was in her death. Like it's crazy. So this would make her, eventually they saw her as a symbol of protection, because it's like protecting a loved one from death or protecting yourself or a loved one from someone trying to murder you so you can murder them. I don't know. But it's a symbol of protection that they saw her as because of this.
Yeah.
So her turning men into stone and becoming a monster, it kind of gives people more of like rethinking, rehashing, retelling her story in different accounts of like how could it, and it makes you think of like, okay, she was turned into something terrible because of something that she didn't have a hand at. And so people really think deep into it. Philosophers have been kind of dissecting her story for generations. It's crazy. So we see in ancient writing from Homer, Hesiod, and Pindar have covered retellings of Medusa, and they're all different one way or another. Like they kind of cover more of like, they continue on her story and how impactful she is even in death. Like they cover like with Perseus's story, or how they cover how she's even like a side character into these other stories and the Iliad and just other works of ancient literature. It's crazy how she's still impactful in all of it because of her symbol of protection.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
So much depth.
Exactly. She has so much depth. And so it wasn't until the 1st century BC that Medusa's tale would actually become well known. She kind of was just a small figure of Greek mythology until I think these ancient writers and authors started to write these adaptations and variations of her. Mm-hmm. So as her story started to develop, so did the interpretation of her. In the beginning retelling, she was, as I cover, she was very ugly and deformed monster. But as centuries continued, her story became more developed. She started to be in more different side hustle characters. I don't know. But her monstrous look turned into more one of just people could start to relate to. She didn't look as grotesque.
Uh-huh.
For sure. But she always had the snake hair. That was like a number one thing for her. So as her story started to broaden, she started to show up on more cups and vases in ancient Greece. Like you could find them, like they still have, just like on the Met website, they had like a bunch of old like vases and cups and just like figures of like her head and stuff like that from all the different centuries and stuff of like just how they perceived her as. She also started to appear on jewelry and became ornaments on vessels. She also became a lot of you could see too that she was on like architecture too.
Okay.
So it's pretty crazy just how significant she was, even though she was seen as like a monstrous.
Villain. Yeah,
like as a villain.
That is really fascinating.
So her story is a true tragedy, as she did not ask for what happened to her. She just wanted to be a priestess for the goddess that she loved so very much. She wanted forgiveness, but the gods have no remorse. So one thing that you can take out of the story of Medusa is to never cross path of a god. They might just turn you into a monstrous serpent lady that gets her head cut off.
We don't need that.
No, we don't. So that is Medusa.
At least you get a bunch of pet snakes on your head.
I guess I bet that was her one social life that she could have other than her sisters.
Just naming all of them.
Pretty much, but yeah, it's really sad because it's just like she just wanted to be there for Athena. And I love that about the Percy Jackson series, the series that they did for Disney Plus, because she talks about how she was there for Athena because the girl in it, her mother is Athena.
Oh, okay.
And so like, and then Percy is Poseidon's son, so it's like,
oh,
Medusa has a lot of hate for the two of them.
Oh man.
But it's, I mean, like, you get her hatred, but my God, she is quite the character. She's great though.
That's so crazy about the head, like the blood on both halves. That's wild.
And how she just pretty much went into like other wars and stuff with like Athena. It was just on her shield.
Huh.
Protecting her.
That's so interesting. I feel like we haven't done mythology in a while. So
I know. That's what I was looking at. And I was like, I've been wanting to cover Medusa for a while now. So I was like, hey, what better time than now? So
yeah, there we go. That's a good one.
I'm gonna mark her off my list.
Woo!
Whoop, whoop. All right. Where can you find us?
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at History of the Podcast, or email us at historyofthepodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to leave us a review or send us an email. We'd love to chat.
Yeah. So we'll catch you next week with more interesting topics.
Yeah, let us know if there's anything specific you want us to talk about.
It'll be great.
All right.
Catch
See you
then. Next week.
Bye.
Bye.